Welcome to week 2 of Becoming Mrs Betterhalf. You know, anytime that I talk to a group about marriage, I love to show this little picture. Now, if you've seen it before, just laugh again, humor me for a second. But the first time that I saw this picture, I thought, oh my goodness, this is so perfect. This is exactly how men and women are. Men are just simple. They have an on and an off. And women are so complex. We have all these knobs and lights and buttons and you know, there's just so many dimensions to us. But I have to tell you that the more that I have dug down into this topic of becoming the best wife that I can be, and the more that I have studied my own husband, this picture has come to mean a lot different to me. You see, I actually feel like this picture proves that men are way more complicated than women. Because you see, for women, all of our buttons are right there. All of our knobs and gears, there's nothing that we have to hide. If we're upset, you're gonna know that we're upset. If we're happy, you're gonna know that we're happy. But you see, men, they trick us. They make us think that they're simple, but really, all of their little knobs and gears are on the inside. And as wives, we have to learn how to adjust our husband's buttons and our husband's gears without him ever seeing that we're doing it. We have to figure out what it is that makes him excited, what it is that makes him angry, you know? And a lot of times it feels like a guessing game, you know? Was it something I said? Was it something I did? Was it totally not even about me? Somebody else maybe doesn't feel good and maybe he has a headache and he hasn't realized it yet. Because, you know, it just takes them a little bit longer to figure these things out about themselves. That's why we're here, right? Honey, I think you have a headache. Let me get you some ibuprofen. But that's what this week is all about. It's about figuring out how to tweak his knobs and his buttons and how to be that woman that he needs us to be without being so obvious about it. This week, we're talking about respect and encouragement. Now, when I first started planning for this study, we put respect and encouragement together because it just felt right. And then when I started actually trying to put some handles on this week's teaching and on this week's homework, I got really overwhelmed because I thought, oh gosh, this is such two big topics. Maybe they should have each had their own week. But I'm glad that I didn't, because what I want you to see today is that these two topics, respect and encouragement, are basically two sides of the same coin, okay? So respect is the lens that he filters everything through. It's the way that he sees his world through almost a respect and disrespect type of filter. Everything that he hears, everything that somebody does, the way that people respond to him, even his children, his coworkers, it's all kind of filtered through this lens of respect. But encouragement, the flip side of that coin, encouragement is the secret weapon to success in every area of his life. So for the remainder of the time, I'm going to unpack these two topics separately, and then I'm going to bring them all back together, hopefully, at the end. Okay, so first, we're going to talk about respect. If you have been at Elevation for a significant amount of time, maybe you were around for our series called Honorology, and my husband was talking about honor. And he made this statement. He said, respect is earned, honor is given. Now, he was talking about honor. He wasn't talking about respect. And when I wrote that down in my notes that specific weekend, I remember thinking, you know, that is true in how our world works, but that's not true in the context of marriage. And I'm going to show you why. So Ephesians 5:33, if you have a Bible, you can turn there. It's just one verse, and I can read it too if you don't want to turn there. But Ephesians 5:33 says, however, each one of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, talking to the men. And then he says to the women, and the wife must respect her husband. So respecting your husband is a command. The Bible doesn't say respect your husband if he's earned it. The Bible doesn't say respect your husband when he deserves it. It says right here, the wife must respect her husband. I think it's funny that God didn't command wives to love to love their husbands because he knew that we would intuitively express love to our husbands, but he knew that we would not intuitively express respect to them. And so he commanded us to respect them. We're just not wired that way. When your husband feels like you respect him, it makes him want to be the man. So when I think about this, I think about so many women that I've met over the years who, when faced with this topic of respecting their husbands, they've kind of said, well, I'll respect him when he earns my respect. The funny thing is, I feel like that's just shooting yourself in the foot, because if you flipped it and you tried it the other way around, if you respected him, I think you would find that he would rise to the occasion and he would become a more respectable man. So like I said, a man filters everything through this lens of respect. Even from a little child, boys want to be respected. I see this in my own kids. My daughter, Abby, she's 5. And, she just wants to be loved. She wants to be hugged and kissed, and she just wants you to spend time with her. She just wants to feel like her mom loves her. But I see in my son, my oldest son, Elijah, is 10 years old, and he's sort of just right on the verge of puberty and coming into that manhood thing. He wants to be respected for whatever it is that he can be respected for. Currently in our house, he is respected for his ability to solve the Rubik's Cube. Now, it's a funny thing, but it's the 10-year-old version of respect, okay? So a couple of months ago, he was in Target, bought an $8 Rubik's Cube, took it home, and he was determined to figure it out. Now, lucky him, he lives in a day and time where all kids have to do when they want to figure something out is go to YouTube. So he spent several days watching videos on YouTube, and he finally figured out and he mastered the Rubik's Cube. Well, if you know my son, that's not good enough. So then he had to see how fast he could master the Rubik's Cube. And then he had to get a bigger one. So a normal Rubik's Cube is at 3 by 3. And so then he had to get a 5 by 5. And he had to figure out how to solve the 5 by 5. Then he took it to school. And I kid you not, my son is respected at his school for the Rubik's Cube. All these other little boys, they've gone and gotten their parents to take them to Target and get the $8 Rubik's Cube. They bring it to Elijah and have him solve their Rubik's Cube because they can't figure it out. And the boys in his class, they have races. I mean, the boy is respected for the Rubik's Cube. At a very early age, men want to be respected. As they grow older, of course, they want to be respected in their job. But most of all, they want to be respected in their home. And oftentimes, that's the last place that they get it. I heard a quote one time that kind of made all of this start to come together for me, and just trying to figure out and understand what is this concept of respect? Because as a woman, I want love. So all you have to do is say, I love you, give me a hug, tell me things you love about me. Love is so much easier than respect. At least I think so. Because you can't just say to somebody, hey, babe, I respect you. It doesn't work that way. So I heard this quote, and it said, it's Emerson Eggerichs who wrote the book Love and Respect. He said, a woman's response to feeling unloved is crying. A man's response to feeling disrespected is anger. And then I want to add in there anger or withdrawal. Because when we think of the word anger, we often think of a man who has an explosive temper and, they're yelling or slamming doors or whatever. But a lot of men, their anger is not outward, it's inward. And so you may be married to a man who, when he gets angry, he just pulls in. And maybe he's on his phone or he's watching his sports, but he's just unresponsive. And you almost feel like there's this wall between the two of you. And oftentimes when your husband is angry or withdrawn, you can trace back an area of him feeling disrespected. Another quote that just really opened my eyes up to this was by Gary Thomas. And he said, this one's a little bit long, but hang with me. He says, men get most frustrated and angriest when they feel disrespected. If your conversation takes on a demeaning tone, you have as much a chance of resolving something as you would baking a cake by throwing the ingredients down the garbage disposal. Now he's talking our language. You cannot control your husband's anger, but you can provoke it by being disrespectful. That does not excuse any inappropriate actions on his part. We're not saying anger is okay, but we're saying anger is an indicator. We're not excusing it, but we're using it as an indicator. He says that does not excuse any inappropriate actions on his part. But if you truly want to be a part of the solution, which is what this study is all about, then learn how to disagree with your husband without showing a lack of respect. That's what this week is all about. How to agree or disagree by not showing a lack of respect. So I want you to think back to maybe the last argument that you had with your husband and think about it. Is it possible that maybe there was a trace of him feeling disrespected? I'm not going to give you a whole lot of time to think about it. Just put it in the back of your mind because I guarantee you, you're going to come across that question in your homework this week. So I want to take a minute, though, to go off of the negative aspect of how, disrespect makes a man feel angry. And I want to give you a few tangible ways that we can put this whole concept in to just grasp what it is that men are thinking and how we can show them respect, because this topic is often very confusing for women. There are 3 places that you can show your husband respect. The first one is his opinion, okay? This can be something huge, like a big decision for your family. Maybe it's purchasing a new car, or in just trusting his judgment on how he wants to purchase the vehicle, or why he went, or what vehicle it is that he wants to purchase. Or it could be something small. Like as women, I know you've all done this, so go with me here. You're getting dressed and you can't decide between the black shoe and the brown shoe. So what do? You go to your husband, you have one shoe on each foot, and you say, "Hun, which shoe do you like better?" And he says, "The brown shoe." And all of a sudden, I feel like that just decides it, the black shoe is the one to go in. It's a little thing, but it's kind of like saying to him, your opinion doesn't matter to me. In fact, I'm going to do the opposite of what you've told me to do. Just a little thing that can communicate respect about his opinion. I have decided, I've kind of thought this through, like, what is it that makes me automatically want to choose the opposite of the one that he picks? And I think a lot of times, I put the brown shoe and the black shoe on. I'm really pulling for the black shoe, and I just want him to say, "Oh, totally the black shoe," And so if I'm wanting him to say the black shoe, then what I need to do is put on both black shoes and say, "How do you like my outfit?" So if he absolutely hates the black shoes, then I would know, but he's not even gonna know what color your shoes are. Right. He's gonna say, "You look beautiful." So unless you are actually going to do what he says, if you're asking his opinion, then don't ask him. Take a picture and send it to your friend. Ask your friend. We live in an amazing world of technology. It's all about supporting his judgments and not questioning his decisions, okay? And I'm not saying that you can't ever share your opinion, but once a decision is made, do you support him or do you make him feel stupid? If the decision goes bad, can you make him feel like, anybody could have made that mistake? Or do you make him feel like, "Well, I told you not to do that. I knew that was a bad idea." The second thing is in his competency. So this can be at his job. This could be around the house. I had a girl in my group one time say she realized that her husband felt disrespected when something was broken and she called her dad to come and fix it rather than asking her husband. And in her defense, she was like, "Well, I asked him to fix it and he didn't. So I just called my dad." But she realized that he felt like that was her saying, "My dad is better at fixing things than you." Maybe that's an area for your husband that you can work on. And for her, I just kind of told her, I said, "Listen, let it be his idea to call your dad." I said, "Say to him, 'Hey, hun, the sink's broken. Do you want to fix it or do you want me to call a plumber?' And then if he says, 'No, I don't have time. Will you see if your dad can come over?' Then it was his idea, not yours." Yeah. Respecting him around the house, respecting him as a father. As men are so insecure as fathers, especially when we have young children. As a mom, that insecurity that you felt that first time that that baby was put in your arms, no matter how much experience you have taking care of children, when you get one that's all yours 24 hours a day, all of a sudden, all reason goes out the window and you're like, I have no idea what to do with this thing. Multiply that times 1,000, and that's how men feel about caring for children. And so if your husband changes the diaper and he puts it on backwards, so what? He changed the diaper. If he gives your baby juice and she's never even had juice before, let him figure out that juice gives the baby diarrhea. You don't need to tell him. He'll figure those things out. Make him feel respected in his competency as a father and even as a husband. Just thanking him for, hey, thanks for taking me out on a date. I love spending time with you. Making him feel like he's a good husband. And the last one is in his space. We have got to realize that our husbands need to feel respected in their space. And it's not just their physical space, which would be maybe his office or his car, leaving your trash in his car, or his possessions. For my husband, his Bible is very special to him. And a few years into our marriage, I was cleaning up, just stacking all the books up, putting them away. And he said, "Why are you putting stuff on top of my Bible?" I was like, I was just stacking the books up. He was like, "You can't put something on top of my Bible." I was, "Oh, okay. So great. From now on, I know that that's something that's important to you." It's about respecting his physical space. It's about respecting his mental space. So many times we're so verbal, and most women, we process things out loud. And so we get into this like attack mode where we're like, "What are you thinking? How did I do? Are you mad at me? What do you want to do? What do you want to eat for dinner?" And you're like attacking him with all of these questions. And they feel like, "Oh, I need some space." We have to give them some mental space so that they can have time to process. And then the last one about his space is physical, it's mental, and it's his time. I think so often as women, maybe you're like me, we struggle with being punctual. I like to call myself just a little bit, punctually inappropriate sometimes. And I've realized with my husband, when I say, he wants to take me out on a date and I say, "I'll pick you up at the office at 6:00 and I get there at 6:15, he's sitting there waiting for me. I've disrespected his time. And now I'm starting my date off kind of on like a little bit of agitation. It's not like he's going to blow up at me. "Where have you been?" But it's about respecting his time. We have to learn how to communicate respect to our husbands verbally and non-verbally. And the place to begin there is by figuring out what makes him feel disrespected, okay? So it's sort of like learning a second language, but you're working backwards because there's not actually words to this second language. It's more like grunts and feelings and emotions. And we have to kind of decipher those things and figure out what are the things that trigger his feelings of disrespect. Because he's not going to say to you, "Honey, I'm feeling a little bit disrespected right now." He's not going to say that. But we have to kind of watch him like a gauge before his check engine light goes off. So every man has different buttons. I don't know what yours are. Here's just a few. Maybe telling him how to drive. Maybe questioning him. Or like I said, leaving trash in his space, in his car, or leaving your hair ties or your toothbrush or whatever it is in his space. This is a big one. Some of these are small, some of these are big. This is a big one, teasing him in public. It's confusing for women because men love to tease each other. I mean, that's what they do. They pick on each other and they tease each other. But you know what? Men don't want to be teased by women, especially their women, because it's like you're exposing him to other people. You know everything there is to know about him, and now you're going to tease him about it, and he feels kind of exposed. So teasing is often a trigger of disrespect. Arguing with him in public. I learned this one the hard way. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but one of our very first big arguments we actually had in front of some friends of ours, and it was terrible. So arguing with him in public. And then the last one, this one's kind of small, but it's a big deal. Asking him to do something and then telling him how to do it. If you have to tell him how to do it, then just do it yourself. If you're that kind of person, you have a specific way, maybe you ask him to order pizza and he gets on the phone and you're like, "Oh, and make sure you get extra cheese. And oh, make sure you tell him thin crust. They always forget about the thin crust." Just order the pizza yourself if you have so many specifications for how the pizza is supposed to be ordered. Don't tell him how to ask him to do something and then tell him how to do it. So you might be thinking, geez, am I supposed to just walk on eggshells around him all the time? I want to read this verse to you. It's Song of Solomon 2:15. It says, catch all the foxes, those little foxes, before they ruin the vineyard of love, for the grapevines are blossoming. Listen, it's about identifying those little things that just eat away at the vine of your marriage. Catch all those little foxes. It's about learning to stop repeating the pattern of disrespect. It's not a bad thing if you accidentally disrespected your husband. Where it's bad is if you continue to make those mistakes over and over again. We have to catch all of those little things. Respecting your husband is not about, it doesn't mean that you can't ever share your opinion, okay? But it's about learning how and when to share your opinion. It's about those verbal and nonverbal cues, your tone, your posture, your attitude afterwards. All right, fine, you don't want to go out to dinner? I'll cook dinner. And you're slamming the pots around in the house. It's about all of those nonverbal things that you communicate. It's about your timing, never in front of others. If you have to correct or confront around other people, I guarantee you he's gonna feel disrespected. It's also, the timing is not right when you're still upset, okay? Because if you come into the room and you're like, why did you give the baby juice and not milk? You're still mad about it. So you're coming at it, your tone's wrong, everything about it is wrong, rather than waiting until you've calmed down and you just say to him, hon, I know that you were just trying to help, but did you know that when she drinks juice that she has diarrhea for 3 days? It's about waiting for the right timing, and it's not while your tempers are still hot. It's about building his trust and not making him feel like he's always on the witness stand. Like you're always asking him, well, why'd you do that? And when'd you do that? And who else saw you do it? And who else was with you? And asking him all these questions, making him feel like you don't trust his judgment. It's about your wording. Are you accusing or are you affirming? Now, I want to piggyback on that word affirming and talk about the power of encouragement. So if we've established that disrespect is what makes him blow, then I want to tell you that encouragement is what makes him go. That's the power that you have as a wife. And I think that women today completely underestimate the power of encouragement in their marriages. You have the power to call out greatness in your husband, and he has an insatiable appetite for genuine encouragement from you. Why does it have to come from you? Because you are his safe place. You know him better than anyone else in the world. So if you say, hon, I really think that you can do this, then he will believe that because you know him. You know his faults, you know his strengths. And if you believe in him, then he will believe that more than anybody else. If somebody at work says, hey man, I think you can do that, then in his mind, he's automatically gonna think, well, you don't know me. But if it comes from his wife, it has so much more depth. It has so much more power. The word encourage literally means to pour courage into. And I want you to think about the opportunity that you have every day to pour courage into your man. Now, I want to give you a few practical ways that you can encourage him. So the first one is acknowledge what he does, okay? In the book, Highly Happy Marriages, it says, a woman saying thank you to her man is the emotional equivalent of his saying, I love you to her. Thank you means so much to him. Thank you for how hard you work. Thank you for doing the dishes. Thank you for changing the diaper. Thank you for picking the kids up. And I think as women, we often want to go like, well, who's going to thank me for all of the things that I do? I have another little poster to show you. So I saw this on Instagram this week, and it's this woman and her husband are talking, and the husband says, did you notice I made the bed and fixed the coffee this morning? And the woman says back, Yes, I did. And did you notice that I've been doing that plus everything else for the last 15 years? And he says, yes, but did I do a good job? And I think so often we want to say, well, who's going to thank me? But let me ask you this. Do you want him to make coffee again? Or do you want to wait another 15 years before he makes the coffee in the morning? All you have to do is say thank you. It's not that big of a deal. And the more that you create that spirit of gratitude in your house, the more other people in your home are going to recognize the things that you do. All you have to do is say thank you. The second one is make him feel wanted. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I have a whole week devoted to making your husband feel wanted, because that is backed up in the bedroom. But telling him, I want you, I desire you, I love being with you. That's another thing that just builds into him and makes him feel like you actually like him, because you do. Another one is cheer him on. You have the opportunity to send him off to his job every day thinking, I am the man at home, and I must be the man at work if I'm the man at home. You've got to find those little sentences of affirmation that you can continually say to him over and over again. When we were about 4 years into building our church, I think my husband went through a season where he just felt really overwhelmed and super unqualified. He just really felt like he didn't know what he was doing. And at that time in our marriage, we had 2 little ones, like ages maybe 3 and 1. And so, I'm staying at home and he's going off to the office and I'm still in my PJs and the kids are still eating breakfast. And I started walking him out to the car every day just because not because I was trying to intentionally be encouraging, but I just felt so bad for him because I knew he was feeling so overwhelmed with what he was doing. And one day as I was walking him out to the car, I said to him, you've got what it takes. And that one sentence, it meant everything to him. And so I just started saying it to him all the time. You've got what it takes. And I don't know why that brings back so many memories for me, because I feel like I actually made him believe that he had what it takes. And we have that power. You've got to find those little sentences. You've got what it takes. You're a great leader. You're a great dad. You're a man of God. You make wise decisions. You have to learn to verbally affirm him daily. I'm proud to be your wife. You look good. You're so great at that. Here's an assignment for you. And I put this into my message today, and I didn't put it into your homework. So you have to do this assignment. Find the thing that your husband is insecure about, just one thing in his life that he's struggling about, and determine, I'm going to build into him. I'm going to build him up in this area, whether it's his parenting or his job or maybe even his self-esteem. I'm going to build into him every day. And I just want to say one last thing about this topic of encouragement. It's not manipulation, okay? There's a big difference between flattery and encouragement. And I want to tell you what that difference is. I found this definition, somewhere on the internet, and it said, flattery is the use of truths, half-truths, or lies to secure something beneficial for ourselves. So flattery is about building somebody up for something that I want them to do for me. But encouragement is the use of truth. Now, you can't lie. It's the use of truth to build someone else up. In other words, flattery and encouragement differ in integrity and intention, okay? Encouragement is all about intention. I have integrity in this. I don't want you to do anything for me. I'm not telling you that you're a good dad because I want you to change more diapers. I'm telling you that you're a good dad because you are a good dad. It's all about building him up and encouragement. And it has to be authentic. It can't be formulaic, If your husband struggles with his weight, then you're not going to start out by saying, oh man, you look good. Then he's going to feel like you're just trying to flatter him, okay? It has to be authentic. It has to be truthful. And the intention of it has to be for him, to build him up. I have integrity. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because I believe in you. And I want you to become the man that I know that you are. I want to close with a verse from Philippians. Again, that book that I spent a lot of time memorizing. And if you put your ribbon in your Bible, you can go to Philippians 2 and then turn one page over, Philippians 4, 8, and 9. And I want to close with this verse. It says, Philippians 4, 8, and 9, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. That's what we're going to do this week. We are going to put this into practice. We're going to dig deeper into this topic of respect and encouragement. We're going to look more at what the scripture has to say, and I'm going to ask you to think about how you do this right and how you do this not so right. Both are important. We want to repeat the good patterns and stop the bad patterns. Don't skip any questions this week, and make sure you write in your book, and I'll see you back here next week. Today, I want to share Donna's story with you. Listen to this. I come from a family of strong-willed, independent women who worked hard, built careers, and established families. My father left my mother to raise us, my sister and me, at a young age, so the idea of showing the husband respect was not evident in my home. I formed patterns from what I saw with my aunts, who both were instrumental in raising me, and neither of them had what you could call ideal marriages. As I began to better understand God's plan for my marriage and my role as a wife, I began to see how some of the unhealthy patterns I witnessed and lived out actually caused the distance and hostility I was experiencing with my own husband. Though he tried to help me understand his unhappiness with my disrespecting words and actions, I didn't really get it until participating in this study. From my regularly making him wait on me and making us late when he's careful about being on time, to taking up space with my things on both sides of our double bathroom sinks. I was sending him messages about how I didn't care about his time or his space. I deeply desire restoration and healing in this area of our marriage. I know it may take a while, but in writing this letter to thank you for all you've done, I'm reminded that if I stay strong in the effort, the Lord will help us rebuild our marriage to make it so much better than it has been in the past. I'm learning how to encourage my husband and show him respect, and it's already making such a difference. Listen, as you dive into your homework this week, make sure you take the time, like Donna did, to evaluate your past examples and your present struggles in this area of respect and encouragement. You cannot break a bad habit if you do not first identify it. Don't forget to write in your book. It's going to be a great week.